Am I wrong for not wanting to make my friend a wedding dress for the cost of materials? So I have a degree in fashion, which some people think means I can be their personal seamstress. I'm used to this problem and I don't mind helping out, but I never work for free. My pregnant friend recently reached out to me and asked me if I could make her wedding dress and sent me a picture of the idea she had in mind. It isn't exactly a simple dress, but it's also not the most complex I've ever done either. I told her I could for sure do this for her and it would cost around 600 pounds. She was shocked at this and told me that she thought I'd do it for free and just pay for the materials. Why would she assume that? I pointed out how many hours this would take me to do and all the hand embroidery needed. Then I explained I was doing this for a quarter of the price I charge other people because she's my friend. At this point, she started to get very upset, telling me I have no idea how much stress she's under with the wedding and the fact she's pregnant and how money is tight and how this should be my wedding gift to her and how great it looked in my portfolio. I don't think I'm being unreasonable to want some money for this, but other friends are telling me it's horrible how I'm wanting to charge her for this and it's not like I'm a high-end bridal shop. So, am I being unreasonable? No, your friends suck.
Storytime about how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. I started out as an influencer on Instagram a few years ago. A few of my posts went viral and after a month I had 1 million followers. Suddenly I had so many brands reaching out to me. Some of the brands I had never heard of, so I didn't really answer back. But I did start working with some brands that I did know. The only problem was that they would only pay me about $70 to $100 per post. By the way, I had a lot of debt at the time, so only making that much was not working for me. I decided to ask for more money, but some of the brands just wouldn't pay it. So by the end of the first month, I had only made about $500. That was not enough to pay my rent, and I was not about to get a day job. I had 1 million followers on Instagram. I was a glorified influencer. So instead, I started reaching out to some of these brands that I had never heard of before. One of them was offering me $5,000 to post a link on my story for 3 days. Of course, I accepted. Part of me thought that it was a scam, but I didn't care at the time. I needed the money. After 3 days of posting the link, they paid me the $5,000. I was able to pay my rent, my car insurance, and my phone bill. But here's the thing. I started getting a bunch of DMs from my followers who were super angry. They were calling me a scammer and a bunch of other names. So I decided to do some investigating, and I found out that the whole thing was a scam. Part two of how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me an Instagram. When I started seeing all the angry messages from my followers, I asked them what was wrong. One girl sent me screenshots of all the stuff that she had bought with the link that I posted. She told me that she Googled the company and that it was a scam. So I decided not to reply back to her. I wrote to the company and told them that I was getting a lot of hate messages. But of course, the company ghosted me. I saw 5 other messages and they were all basically saying the same thing. That the website was a total scam and that they had purchased stuff off of it. But here's the thing. For the first time, I had money. So I decided to just ignore it, which I know is a bad thing, but it's also their fault for not doing their research. But I did learn my lesson. After that, I Googled every single company that ever reached out to me. But here's where it gets worse. 2 weeks later, I get another $5,000 check from the same company. But I was so happy. I deposited that check really fast. So here's what I had to do. I blocked every single person who told me that the website was a scam. And then I just tried to forget about it. I also had to delete all the hate comments. And a few weeks after that, I get another $5,000 check. I had $15,000 in the bank. Part three of how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sending me an Instagram. I had made $15,000 from all of the scams. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I got another $5,000 check. So in total, I had $20,000. This was the most money I'd ever had in my life, and I was not about to send it back. But I was still getting a lot of hate on Instagram. I ended up blocking over 500 people. And then finally, the company reached out to me. I told them my followers were saying that they were scamming them, but the company made up some excuse saying that the shipments had been delayed and that my followers would receive all their purchases. Then they offered me another $5,000 to post a different link. And guess what? Of course I accepted. They offered me $7,000 this time. I knew very well that this was probably another scam, but I still accepted. A few days later, I posted the link, but the payment never came. I waited a few weeks before contacting the company, and they ghosted me. I wrote to them every single day, but I never got the $7,000. So guess what? I also got scammed too. It's been 2 years since that happened, and I don't feel bad about it. I now make a lot more money than $20,000, but we all start somewhere. Part of me does feel guilty for scamming everyone, so sometimes I think about possibly paying them back. And don't start trying to guess in the comments who I am. You will never guess. Or maybe you will. Whatever, I'm $20,000 richer. Bye.
Storytime, my boyfriend beat up his ex-girlfriend because she tried to kill me. So it was my sophomore year in high school and I had just gotten with this guy who was fresh out of a relationship. And let me tell you a little bit about his ex-girlfriend. So before him and I even started dating, him and his ex-girlfriend were together for 2 years. And guys, this girl was fucking psychotic. Let me give you a quick example. Last year, I had a class with him and her, and the teachers assigned partners for this one project. while her boyfriend got paired up with this other girl. And anybody who would even talk to her boyfriend would get jumped by her and 8 of her friends. So his girlfriend starts being buddy-buddy with this girl, and his girlfriend goes, "Oh, do you want to come to the bathroom to hit my dab pen?" So the girl says yeah, thinking that she's being all nice and shit. So they both go to the bathroom and they're gone for like 25 minutes. So I asked to go to the bathroom because I want to see what's going on. So I walk into the auditorium bathroom and nobody's really around that bathroom. And this bitch is getting beat the fuck up. Like for part 2. Okay, part 2. Okay, so like I said, I walk in and this bitch is getting her shit rocked. Like there were like 5 girls in there beating the shit out of her. All of them just look at me, so I walk out and go back to the classroom. And the one girl went to the hospital and the other girl got suspended. So back to present day. So after school that day, I get a ride with him and his friends to his house. Well, as we're all driving to his house, we realize that his ex-girlfriend's car is right behind us. And it's literally her and all of her friends. And at this point, my boyfriend's really fed up with her shit. Because she keeps following me around school, texting me saying she's gonna kill me, saying he got her pregnant, always says that he's been cheating on me with her. So my boyfriend pulls over the car, and at this point, I think it's a trap. I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna let me get beat the fuck up. Well, he tells me to stay in the car. He gets out and walks over to her driver's door and tells her to get out of the car. So her and all her friends get out, and one of her friends starts punching him. While he's distracted with that, his ex runs over to the car, opens the door, and pulls out a fucking knife. Like for part 3. Okay, part 3. She fucking has a knife up to my neck, screaming at me. And I'm staying quiet as fuck because I do not want to get my throat slit by this bitch. So all I see is my boyfriend rip this bitch out of the car and start stomping her in the fucking ground. And whenever he went and ripped her out of the car, the knife like slashed my leg open, so there's fucking blood everywhere. And we're like at the beginning of his cul-de-sac, so all the fucking neighbors are outside watching him stomp this bitch into the ground. And then one of her friends comes around the other side of the car, grabs me by my hair, rips me out of the car, starts beating the shit out of me. So then one of his friends starts beating up that bitch too. So obviously the cops were called. My boyfriend went to jail. She also went to jail. And after that happened, my parents made me move schools. But after that, word got around that they were dating again. Good luck to the next bitch.
Am I wrong for refusing to pay my sister's bill and giving her information to the restaurant after she ditched me? This happened last night. My sister and her boyfriend recently moved to a town next to mine. I was excited as we'll be able to see more of each other now. Nearby, there's a downtown center that has a lot of shopping, restaurants, galleries, etc. There is one upscale restaurant that both my husband and I love. A dinner for 2 will run you about $200 to $250, so it's not a place we frequently go to. My sister called me last week and invited us out to dinner with them at the restaurant last night. I reminded her it was an upscale place and to take a look at the menu beforehand because they are pricey and we can go somewhere else, tons of other great places to choose from. She said they still wanted to go. We hadn't been there in a while, so we accepted. Dinner was great. At the end of the meal, my sister excuses herself to the bathroom, and when she doesn't come back relatively soon, her boyfriend goes to find her. After a while, neither of them comes back. We go to check for them and they're gone. I call and text her and she texts me back saying that they've left but thanks for dinner. It was just as amazing as you said it would be. I asked her what she meant, but no response. I texted again, asking if she really just stuck us with the bill, and no response. I then texted that I never agreed to pay for them and that she had 30 minutes to come back to the restaurant, or I'll give the restaurant all her information and they will likely involve the police. No response. At the 30-minute mark, I called and texted and got no response. So I stayed true to my word. I paid for mine and my husband's portion and gave all her information to the manager for their portion and then left. The next day, she called me back upset that she's been getting calls from the restaurant asking her to come pay or they'll contact the police. No shit, Sherlock. I said I'm not surprised since she skipped out on her bill. She said she thought I was paying the tab since I paid for our dinners in the past. I have paid for her and me only, and dinners where the total tab was $60 max. I said this was obviously different than all the other times we met for dinner. This was all 4 of us and at an upscale restaurant, and I was not paying the $450 tab and she had to cover her portion. I reminded her that she invited us out and chose the restaurant. I specifically asked if she wanted to go somewhere else, but she is the one who insisted on going to this restaurant. She then said she thought I'd just pay, but when I asked the waiter for separate checks, she realized I wasn't and left for the bathroom planning to ditch. I said that since the restaurant hadn't contacted the police yet, all she had to do was go in and pay and it would be settled. She didn't want to do that because it would be too embarrassing and asked me to cover it. I again said no.
Soon. So no more lame excuses for sus boys. Anyways, so finally after asking him a bunch of times to hang out, we finally made plans to meet up for dinner. He gave me the address to the place and it was like 20 minutes from where I lived. And he told me that he was going to be wearing a baseball cap and I told him that I was going to be wearing a white shirt and green jeans. So I took an Uber and got there at like 6 o'clock. But when I got in there, I didn't see anybody with a baseball cap on. While I'm looking around, all of a sudden somebody I'm texting my friend that I just got fucking catfished. And while I was going in and out of my purse, I dropped my phone on the floor. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, why the hell is she telling us that part about the phone? Well, because I'm pretty sure that he put something in my drink. No, like he 100% put something in my fucking drink. So I hurry up and eat my food and drink my drink because I just wanted to get the hell out of there. And my drink tasted totally fine, like there was no bitterness or anything. So while he was getting the check, I went to the bathroom to call my friend. And as soon as I get into the bathroom, I start feeling so off. And no, it was not my anxiety from sus Chris. I also felt like I was gonna throw up. And my friend wasn't picking up at all. So I tried sharing my location with her, which I usually never do, like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So like I said, I shared my location with her, but it took me forever because I had no control over my body whatsoever. And I was throwing up uncontrollably. So she immediately knew that something was wrong because I wouldn't just randomly share my location with her. So that's when I blacked out, and I really only remember a few things that happened after that. Like I remember being out in the parking lot and him walking me to a car, which I thought was my Uber. So I remember waking up in the car and looking at the dashboard and it being 9 o'clock at night. So I start to wake up a little bit and I realize that I'm in somebody else's car and I can't find my phone anywhere. I'm pretty sure I blacked out again after that because the last thing I remember is a police officer standing over me and shining a flashlight in my face. So apparently there's security footage of him pulling off into a gas station and putting me in the trunk, and he was able to make it all the way to South Carolina from West Virginia. So my best friend shared my location with authorities. I want to spread awareness that things like this actually do happen. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video's worth 1,000,000. So click the link in my bio for a safer option of online dating. Love you guys. Okay, so story time about how I got caught sneaking out of my house. So a little background information, I was 15 years old and a freshman in high school, and this happened about a month or so before school ended. I honestly had a pretty normal life before this happened. There was nothing exciting or crazy going on, no drama or anything like that, except there was this one junior that I had a huge crush on, and we're going to call him Kevin. Kevin was known for going after freshmen. I mean, we all know that one guy, but I thought he was really interested in me. Why? Because I was stupid. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I was never really allowed to see Kevin because my mom was extremely strict since she had my sister whenever she was 17. I was never really allowed to see him outside of school unless like we were in a big group of people or my mom just didn't know that he was going to be there, or any guy for that matter. So like I said, she had my sister whenever she was 17, so she would never let us go out with boys, be out after dark. She was just super protective. Like, we weren't even allowed to sleep over at our friends for a whole weekend. We were only allowed to sleep over one day out of the week at a friend's house. I felt like I was living in a prison, which I pretty much was, but you know. On the other hand, my dad didn't really care what my sister and I did as long as we weren't like, you know, doing meth on the curb. He didn't care, but he would always agree with my mom because, as he always says, happy wife, happy life. So whatever my mom said kind of, you know, was the overall decision. The worst part was I wasn't even the one that my mom needed to be worried about. My older sister was way worse than I was. And she didn't even care whenever she would get in trouble. So it was like, I don't know, maybe they just didn't want me to be like her. Well, with that being said, Kevin invited me to a party that he was throwing. And of course I knew that I could not